Every day, 34 people in their 20s and 30s are diagnosed with cancer.
On the 7th of July 2015, I was one of the 34.
On the 28th of August 2008, I was one of the 34.
These are the stories of what happens afterwards.
This is AfterThoughts.
Hi everybody, welcome back to AfterThoughts. I'm here with Toby.
Hi, Alice.
And we've also got the brilliant Brad Gudger with us today.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having
We're
me.
so glad to have you. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm just enjoying some cake, actually. Yeah.
Should we talk about why we've got cake today?
We can. We have cake because Alice has made me a delightful...
Oh, I didn't make it.
Oh, good. Oh, didn't you?
From M&S.
Oh.
Anyway.
Because it was my birthday yesterday, everyone. Yeah, I was...
Happy birthday, Toby.
The big 3-1.
Yes.
Whoa, yes.
Oh, you don't look a day over 25.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's what everyone says.
Are you one of those people like me where you're like, every birthday is a gift now? Or are you just like... oh, it's just another birthday.
It's just another birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not that. I don't know. Maybe it was because it was 31, but yeah. What I did yesterday was halfway through the day, I went bouldering on my own. That's exciting. Thank you very much. My partner was working, so I was all on my own. I went bouldering, and I haven't been for a number of months. I'm not trying to say that I do bouldering a lot and I'm one of those people, not at all, because I went bouldering and got a little bit tired and I got stuck at the top.
Yeah.
I finally made it up the one I wanted to, and then I was at the top and I was like, I have no strength to climb back down.
I just have an image of you being stranded there for like an hour, like hanging on in peril.
Yeah.
Is it safe on your own?
Yeah, I mean, there are other people there.
Oh,
Were
okay.
you at like a wall or?
Yeah.
Oh, I
What's
was
the
gonna say, I
difference
thought
between
just in
bouldering
nature.
and rock climbing?
Well, you don't go up that high. Like rock climbing, you could be on a harness. Well, bouldering, you only go up a certain amount. Now I sound like I know what I'm talking about.
I mean, it just sounds the same though.
I was gonna
Still,
say,
No, there's a rope. There's a rope.
So you
That's
weren't
Oh, right,
bouldering
so-
out in the wilderness?
No.
Okay.
No.
bouldering's like freehand,
Yes.
right?
Should wrap that up. Probably.
Understood.
That's about as interesting as this is going to get.
Well, anyway, you went bouldering yesterday
Yes.
to celebrate your birthday,
Yes.
and we've had cake and we had candles, and we're all kind of in the countdown to Christmas, aren't we?
Absolutely, getting into the festive feeling.
Oh yeah, we've got Christmas tree, we've got lights, we've got wreaths, we've got everything.
and a reindeer.
And Christmas jumpers.
Yeah, got my Christmas jumper on. Oops. I wear them pretty much every day in December.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty much. When I have a bigger house, I want to have one Christmas jumper for every day of December.
Love
That's my objective for life. It's like my aim. That's when I'll know I've made it.
it. So Christmas every day at your house.
Yeah.
So, welcome to AfterThoughts. AfterThoughts is a podcast to tell the stories of young people who are beyond a cancer diagnosis. And today we have Brad. Brad, before we dive into the delightful world of cancer, we always think it's best to talk about the human first.
Because you are, of course, a human rather than, you just happen
the
to have had
diagnosis,
cancer.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have some quick fire questions for you.
Good. I'm ready.
Great.
I'm
You
ready.
look pumped.
Yeah, right. Don't I? Is that translating over the airways?
Fingers crossed.
They're going to come super quick.
Okay,
Like, you really got to go for it.
So it's my first thought that comes into my head.
That's always
Right?
the objective, but it never really works out.
Well,
like
that's
that.
it.
I was going to say, if this is unfiltered, it's a bit dangerous because I'm going to have to be like, what is my first thought? So,
Don't worry.
okay,
Don't
that's
worry.
fine. That's fine.
Right.
Toby, are you starting?
I'm starting.
Go.
Okay, here we go. Brad, prefer
Yes.
pronouns?
He, him, his.
Who do people say you look like?
So I've had James Franco
Oh, I see
before.
it. Yeah.
I've had James Franco before.
What a compliment.
What else? No, I think I've
Let's
only
go
had
with
James Franco. Yeah,
Good one.
it's a strong one. That one.
First pet?
Ooh, I had loads. Do I go extra? Yeah, I had a pony.
Oh, of course you did. Of course you did. I
Well,
love
so
it.
this is what I was going to say. Is like, so I had 3 Shih Tzu dogs, which I adored. But I had a budgie, I had fish, I had a rabbit, But yeah, the most extra
you
answer, I
have a zoo?
suppose. Well, we just put through my mum through hell.
Your poor mum dealing with all that animal poo.
Absolutely. But yeah, the most extra. I had a pony.
What's the pony called?
Polo.
Polo the pony.
Polo the pony.
What kind of pony was it?
Oh, I have no idea.
Just a little one.
Just a small one.
Brilliant.
Which is really cute. Yeah.
Great.
Oh,
I love
miss him.
that. Oh, it's quite fitting that I'm asking this question actually. Brad, where would you say you're from?
I am from a lovely place called Appleton Wisk, which
Yeah.
is near Northallerton, which coincidentally is where you are from.
Yeah,
Is it not, Alice?
yeah, absolutely.
In North Yorkshire.
Yeah, so Brad and I found out when we met each other a few weeks ago, properly for the first time, that we both went to the same school and we know loads of the same people, and it's just mad.
It's bonkers.
Yeah.
But I love it. So many mutual friends on Facebook.
So many, yeah.
Have you heard our news?
I feel really out of it,
Sorry.
if I'm honest.
You're a southerner
so if
as
you can
well.
stop talking about it. it'd be great. Okay, Brad, favourite soup?
Ooh. Oh, it depends what day it is.
Ooh.
Thursday.
So, okay, I'd say mushroom.
No way. No way. So Toby and I both hate mushroom soup.
Oh, really?
And
Well, I
you-
only went with mushroom soup. Okay, well, I'll change my
No,
answer.
no, no, no,
Bacon and Stilton soup.
No.
Oh.
You are the second
Second
person
person to
that
say
said
mushroom.
mushroom soup.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's why we were both like, so
Recoiling
funny,
from that
yeah.
answer.
That's a shame.
All right, I'm
We-
gonna go with mushroom. I'll be loyal.
yeah.
Mushroom soup.
Stick what you got.
We
Yeah.
need to get out of our echo chamber. That's
No,
the
you
problem
do,
we've got,
sorry.
you know.
Oh, there's literally no way I'm getting out of an echo chamber and eating mushroom soup. Like, literally not going to happen.
Oh, so tasty.
Never. What? Gross. Please, can you give us 3 words to describe your personality?
Normally, I hate describing myself, but for you two, I will. I would say persistent,
Oh, yeah.
resilient, and happy.
I think they are 3 great words. Great words.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Last but not least, favourite childhood programme?
Okay, so this is no, I'm not going to be embarrassing.
No, be embarrassing.
Because I still watch some of my favourite childhood programs.
Good.
Like,
Yes.
So, but I still love some of my parents' favourites. So I used to love Button Moon.
Oh,
Have you heard of Button Moon?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Button Moon. Yeah, so Button Moon. So my favourite one. Let's choose my favourite. This is so tricky.
We've got a definite connoisseur here.
We've
got a connoisseur, yeah.
Right? This should be really easy to answer. I'm gonna go with Winnie the Pooh.
Oh,
The new Adventures of the Winnie the Pooh is always my favourite.
Oh,
Great
nice.
choice. Yeah, I love it.
Amazing. Thank you very
Yeah.
much, Brad.
Brad, if you could tell us a little bit about your diagnosis as well, please.
Absolutely. So, I was diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia when I was 19. I got officially diagnosed on June the 13th. The prognosis was fine. It was just it's like a course of treatment called imatinib. It's part of the IB family, which is TK inhibitors, which inhibits the disease from progressing. And that was a lifelong treatment. Moved down to London. Life was great. And then in 2017, all of the treatments, and I went through different generations of the IB family, and they stopped working. So I had a bone marrow transplant in January 2018. And here I am.
Afterthoughts is about stories,
Sure.
and we have asked Brad to think of some stories about moments throughout his experience of having cancer. So first up, Brad, wondered if you could tell us a story of a moment beyond treatment.
Yeah, I was getting very impatient towards the end. I'd been in for 2 months, so it got to the point where I was like, it has to be today, and they're like, oh no, it's going to be tomorrow. So then obviously on the day it was like, when's it happening, and then they came in, the discharge papers, and my mum and my nurse specialist came in and said, pay attention to the discharge, because obviously my mind was just on, I'm going home. So they're like, pay attention to these things, like if you feel this, do this, if you feel that, do that, like so going through the whole discharge process and signing the papers and everything. But yeah, it was run out of the building, the car was waiting, Dad had brought the car around, and the whole family had gone home together, which was really lovely. And it was just a moment of, oh my God, like I'm out. I can't believe I've just gone through that 2 months, because there was times, especially in the beginning, of just how am I going to get through this? Like, how am I going to do this? If I feel this awful, this early into this process, like tomorrow, I'm terrified of tomorrow. How am I going to do 2 months? Like, I just can't. So I was just in the car completely just thinking, like, and overwhelmed, but immersed in this feeling of, oh my God, I did it. Like, I did it. Like, and then got home. We managed I did my tablets because I had like a bunch of medication that I had to take, a big cocktail every day. So we just did medication management in the the weekly planner things. Yeah, so me and my mum sat down, we did that just so it's done, so we don't have to do it anymore. And yeah, it was just easy from there. I think it was just, I can't believe I'm home, I'm going to recover, take things easy. There was no stress in the world. That's what I remember. There was nothing at all that I had to worry about, which was actually really lovely. I didn't have to worry about rent, didn't have to worry about bills, didn't have to worry about a job, didn't have to worry about being looked after. And that I always remember that feeling of being home is, oh yeah, I don't have a care in the world actually, which is great. So yeah, that will always stay with me.
I have 2 questions. Number 1, well, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment. Your dad having the car running makes it feel like it was some sort of heist,
Yes.
like escaping from the hospital.
Well, because it's always one of those things that you just, like, a nurse might run out and go, excuse me, we just need to, no, like, bye. Like, thank you, Zara, but I'm off. Like,
do you remember what you ate when you got home that day?
What did I eat? So I had a really bad brush with gut GVHD when I was in hospital. So after it grafted, I couldn't hold anything down, the smallest thing. So I'd lost my appetite completely. So I was having like really bland cereal in the morning, like a few spoonfuls, maybe having like an apple, having food, like having a few spoonfuls or forkfuls, but I really struggled to keep it down. Then when I started the high dose steroids, saviors, my appetite came back. So when I got home, all I remember is just eating carbs, to be honest. Like, I do remember being like, I was put off like fatty foods. Like, I remember on the way home, like, fam were like, oh, should we get McDonald's or something really easy? And I was like, nope. I was like, no, I can't. Like, the only thing that I could stomach was maybe a Subway, just because it had like lettuce, tomato, like it actually had like fruit and veg, which I really wanted and was kind of craving. And I had a really weird pickle crave, like a gherkin crave. Yeah, like really strong flavors I was craving.
Have you still got the gherkin?
I have got the gherkin now. I have.
Really?
I do love a good gherkin.
Oh.
Yeah.
In a jar? Are we talking in a jar? Like, open it up, boom, take them. Do you eat them just on their own?
Oh yeah. Sorry for
That's disgusting.
Like, sorry, this may take.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I might just be like, start eating one now. Actually, like
Well,
ASMR.
Don't have any. Won't allow them in my house.
Oh no, I do love a good gherkin. I think it was just the very potent taste.
Yeah.
It was like, ooh, like I can actually taste something, because it did take a while for my taste to come back properly. Like, I couldn't have Coca-Cola or fizzy drinks or any soda drinks, to be honest, for a long time, because all I would taste is iron, or like very acidic taste, and it wasn't nice at all. Yeah, I do remember being put off like fast food for a long time, because I think my body was like, just enough. Like, no, like we've been through enough badly.
And now we're going to move on to talk about the invisible impacts of a cancer diagnosis. And with this, we kind of want to explore, it's things like the impact on your mental health or fertility or all those kinds of things. And we're just really curious to hear your kind of stories, or a story around the invisible impact that your cancer diagnosis had on you.
I'd say the hidden ones, I think it's the triggers, and I know that happens for a lot of people, and I have some area of coping mechanism, but I think it, like, I can just be at a party and somebody does something, or I smell something, or I hear something, and that trigger is there it is, the memories come back, and I think that's something that will never go and will never leave. And it's something that I find, especially when I'm talking about it online, is something that I feel like I'm apologizing for. Like, oh yeah, I know I had cancer like 2 years ago, like I should stop talking about it. But I think that's what people think of me, is like, oh God, will you just stop talking about it? But I think it's something that will always be with me. I think it's something that I will always go through, is just the triggers. Yeah, my boyfriend came out of the shower. He'd used the shower gel that I use. He uses every day, and for some reason, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a combination of him using that shower gel and then he sprayed when he came out of the shower, and it just smelt like, ironically, it smelt like the unscented shower gel that I had in the hospital. And I just went, like, it's literally, I was on the verge of tears because it took me back to being in the cubicle. I had an ensuite room, which I'm very fortunate to have in hospital, I suppose, so a lot of privacy. But in this cubicle, had my the IV and the what are they called? Do you have to take reel around with you?
IV.
Just the IVs, yeah. So I had them outside the shower, but obviously I had my Hickman line on. I couldn't stay in for too long because the heat would make my blood pressure fall, and it did happen once. Like, I went really lightheaded. I felt like I was going to be sick. I went deathly pale. Like, Mum was like, "What is going on?" And yeah, like, the shower was actually a time of day which I just really hated because it was just a lot of effort. It was not as easy as it'd been throughout my entire life. Popping in the shower, having a quick body wash, enjoying it, maybe having a sing-song. Like, it just was awful. It was really not a nice experience. So all I wanted to do was just like lay in bed and chill out. So I hated the shower. Really hated it. So when he came out and smelled, I was like, like, it just took me right back to it, and it took me a little bit of time to get over it, actually, and really think it's like, it's fine, and I understand why I feel this way. I know why I feel this way, and it's taught me a lot about self-reflection, like not suppressing it, and just reflecting and going, it's fine. Yeah, you know why you feel this way. It's good. It's good to keep thinking about it and processing it. And that's that. And yeah, so about 10 minutes later, it was fine, and started watching the TV. Dom was nice and clean. And yeah, we just got on with our evening. But it happens a lot, and I think that's what people don't understand is people have different coping mechanisms, but it can happen so many times. It can not happen for a month, but it can happen 3 times in one night. So yeah, I suppose that's definitely one of them. And I've become accustomed to hiding it. Not because I'm ashamed of it, just because it interferes in my life as well. I'm not bothered about what other people think, especially if I'm around friends. But it's more, oh my God, like, I can't be bothered with it. It's like, it's effort to have to think about this. So yeah, I'd say that's definitely one of them.
I think that's so good.
Yeah. I'm just really interested in what your shower songs are.
Oh, I have so many.
Give us your hits.
Well, so the one that I warm my voice up to is Part of Your World, Little Mermaid.
I love it.
Very attached to that, just because I'd be in the hospital bed and I'd be like, oh, like, what would I do? Just be where you are. Like,
yeah, there's definitely
part of your world. Yeah, obviously just laid in hospital, like, attached to an IV for 24 hours, and be like, yeah, I wish I was out of this bloody hospital room. That's one of them. I do love I Believe I Can Fly, but R. Kelly. Oh no, sorry.
Kelly's been cancelled.
He ruined it. So Part of Your World, I definitely think is my go-to song.
Nice.
Did you have any like shower related traumas?
Yeah. It's FCUK shower gel, which is somebody got it for Christmas or something like that, and the smell is exactly the same, like that. I think the main thing for me with showers was always when first time round when I had a PICC line rather than a Hickman line, was having the
cling film.
I didn't have cling film. I had the cow.
No.
The cover, the cow, which I always thought looked like you put your hand up a cow's bum.
I just used to, I really identified with what you were saying there about how much of a fanny on having a shower is. When I had my PICC line, like having to wrap it up in cling film and then just
not invest in the this thing,
No.
which I think we've still got at home probably, and you just used to stick your hand in it. I mean, I'm sure you can imagine it, but just used to do that. I mean, it's still horrible, but yeah.
No, it's like coming back to me now when I'm thinking about it as well. Like, just looking down and just seeing this tube coming out of my chest, and it's like, am I meant to clean around it? Do I clean over it? Like, what do I do? Like, am I allowed to touch this thing? Like, it's just so weird, like, so crazy. And it's I think it's the sense of being tied to something. It's like, I'm not free to move around. The exact same in bed, like having to sleep with it.
Right?
Yeah, well, especially when you're on like 48-hour IVs, like to flush out the system or for whatever. Like, because I had a urine infection, quite a bad one, so I was constantly attached to an IV, and it's like, sleeping in them, like, tugging and go, oh God, is it going to come out? Like, it won't, but just so much faff.
next up, we have a section called Those Around Us.
Yeah.
We're interested in how cancer reverberates beyond those who are directly impacted, influenced by the diagnosis and the treatment and experience. So, wonder, Brad, could you tell us a story of somebody else, those around us?
I think an obvious answer for me is probably my brother. I think a lot of people around me didn't, especially after I'd gone through treatment and been put on this prognosis, is everyone, including myself, were like, well, yeah, that's fine, like it's done. And then when obviously it started to get worse and each treatment failed and was getting, and my condition was getting worse and worse, I think everyone was like, is it really so bad? And then it took my consultant to be like, actually, he is very ill. Like he's getting worse. I think one of the biggest impacts is on my brother, just because he was my bone marrow donor, but he was living his best life traveling around Southeast Asia and he had to come back. It wasn't a chore. He was more than happy to be my donor and be the person who would save my life. And I'm so glad it was Lewis. But I think that was probably a very big impact because he had to stop traveling and come back home, and he actually is not left since. He hasn't gone back traveling. He's gone back to Leeds with his girlfriend is working. So it's always one of those questions of, would he have stayed traveling? Would he have got a job where he's staying and I don't know, thousands and thousands, maybe millions, like, because he's a very smart guy, studied engineering. So yeah, there's always a what could have been if not, but I'm sure he'd say, and I'd say the same thing, that it's worked out very well and we're both very happy, and it's made us much closer as well. I was originally meant to have a European donor, and a more senior man. I think he was in his late 50s, but he unfortunately suffered a heart attack. He's fine, he's alive, but it meant he couldn't be my donor. So my consultant made the decision and just said, right, we'll have Lewis. And he had already come back at this point, I think. He'd already come back at this point, kind of waiting in the wings. So it was a very quick thing. Came in, had these tests, did this. I was still having treatment. Sometimes we'd miss each other at the hospital. Sometimes we'd see each other. And yeah, it all happened very quickly. Because I think it was the beginning of December when my consultant said, right, we're going with Lewis. So throughout December, in the run up to Christmas, they were testing him, making sure that he was fit and proper to be my donor. They were testing me. I was doing lung capacity and all of these different tests, ECGs. We went home for Christmas, and we kind of all just, it was very somber because we were just waiting for this thing to happen, which I was admitted into hospital on the 8th of January, so very soon. So yeah, so it there's not that one moment where it was like hospital reunion, you're like, oh, like I wish there was, or maybe there was, I don't know, I can't really remember that very well actually, unfortunately, but it was just nice to have them all there. That's the thing I do remember from it very vividly, is it was just nice to have my parents, my boyfriend, my brother and his girlfriend there. It felt like the family was very whole for a long time, which it hadn't been, because obviously people were travelling around, people were all over the place. My parents live in Yorkshire, I was living in London, and Lewis was travelling around the world. So it was nice to have, I think, everybody in one place for a really long time. The first time it'd been for a long time.
With that Christmas, what do you get a man who's giving you your his stem cells? Do you remember?
Yeah, like what did I get him? I know what so I actually managed to. I don't know what I got him for that Christmas, but one gift that I did give him, which I think is probably the best gift I've ever given anybody, is I got a photo. Was it a photo? I got a picture of what my bone marrow had looked like under a microscope from my consultant, and then had an artist draw it. I then got a photo of what, after my bone marrow biopsy, which confirmed that the PCR result, that the cancer had gone, or was undetectable. I'd say it's not gone completely, but it's undetectable. And I'd got an artist to draw both of these scans next to one another, so cancer and then after cancer, and it was because of him that the cancer was gone. So yeah, I do have a photo of it, and it's literally one of the best gifts I've ever given anyone, because he was like, what's this? And I was like, well, this is my blood with leukemia, like this is my bone marrow with leukemia, and this is it after, and this is what you did for me. So yeah, I've got a photo of it. I'll find it.
Amazing.
We're both sat here not saying anything because we're like, we just want that whole to be perfect. Like that little bit. That is just magnificent. What an amazing thing. And you say that you feel like it's brought you closer to your brother.
Absolutely. I mean, we were never not close, but I mean, we're brothers and we're chalk and cheese.
What's the age gap between you?
2.5 years. We're just very different people. So when we were younger and when we were growing up, and I was in the closet for so long, so I was just always angry anyway, which always added tension to every relationship that I had. So so growing up, we were just always at each other's throats. But as we've got older, and then with this in the mix as well, it's just made us very close, which is really lovely.
It's mad to me, like it's amazing to me that you're walking around with like him in you.
I know.
Really powerful about that.
It is. It is really lovely, and it's just it was nice to keep it in the family, I suppose. Like it was to have that because it was very special.
When I had my breast reconstruction, I had fat grafts. So they took fat from various different places on my body and used it to make my boob. And
Did they take it from your back mostly?
No, I had a different one. So they took it from my thighs and my stomach. But I remember my dad saying to me, "You can have some of mine if you want." It's not quite the same, is it? He was like, "You can have some of my fat," and your brother was like, "You can have some of my bone marrow."
Oh, but I love that. Have some of mine.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so generous when someone's offering you fat. Yeah.
We know that cancer leaves a lot of impacts on young people's lives. But what we're really interested in is kind of where you sit on the spectrum of, was cancer a gift for you or was it a grievance? And, you can be anywhere on that spectrum. It can be more of one but a bit of the other. But we'd really love to hear any kind of stories that you have around the gifts that cancer has given you or the grievances that you have with cancer.
So there's a lot actually for gift, but one really stands out, I suppose. So I've fortunately always been very close with my boyfriend's family. They were very accepting of him when he came out. So then when he introduced me to them, they were very welcoming, very accepting, which was wonderful. When I found out that I had to have a bone marrow transplant, so it was August, September, when my consultant said, "This is the route we're going down." I was prepared, and she said, "You're going to be in hospital for a minimum of 6 weeks, potentially longer. We can't anticipate this." So I thought, well, there's no point me staying in a central London apartment. So I moved out of that apartment in September. My tenancy was up. I didn't renew it. And I moved in with Dominic and his parents, which was wonderful. So generous of them, and such a gift at that time for me to have that kind of sanctuary. And so that was beforehand. And then I had the bone marrow transplant. And then after it as well, I lived at home recovering in Yorkshire and lived with my parents for about 3 months, but then wanted to start coming back down to London. So I'd get the train down to London, get seen at the hospital once a week, but then I'd stay with Dom's parents for a few days and use that again as a base, as a sanctuary, come into London and see some friends because they live just outside the M25. So I gradually came back to London, like through Dom's parents, after spending a lot of wonderful time with my own. So I suppose what it's given me is it's given me a sense of faith, which I didn't really have before. I've always believed, and sorry, I don't want this to go into a full-blown theology conversation, but it's given me a sense of faith. I'd always believed in a higher power, and I'd always been very spiritual, but I learned a lot from Dom's mum, especially around Christianity. And she goes to church, but it's not this, and my interpretation of it anyway, it's not follow the Bible word for word, but she's just a very Christian woman. She's very kind, and she allowed me to stay in her house. She was like, "Well, your family, of course, you're going to come stay with me." And she, for my birthday, she knew that I was interested in exploring more around Christianity. and she bought me a Bible for my birthday, which was really lovely, but like with quotes that you just flick through, and you choose a day and it'll give you a quote of the day, which is really lovely. So I suppose one big gift came from that was faith, but it made me closer with Dom's mum and Dom's family, which I really appreciate and I'm very thankful of. Other things, it's made me more grateful for life. I know that's super cliched to say, because I'm sure everybody says that. Sometimes I feel a little bit ashamed to say that cancer has worked for me in a way. I know that sounds really awful to say, but I think it has. I think it's opened my eyes to other people's journeys and other people's experiences. Not everyone's experiences are so straightforward. Some end in tragedy, unfortunately, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. But I think overall, it's been a gift to me. I suppose probably 70% 30, or 60% 30, no, 60% 40. I don't know. Like it's around the 60-70%, because it's also shaped my life's work. Working the charity that I'm setting up now, working with the LGBTQ plus community with cancer health outcomes, and working with the NHS, like it's shaped my life in a way that I never could have imagined, and I'm doing something completely different now than what I originally wanted to do, and I'm happy for that. Like I'm not upset about it. So I'd say more gift than grievance, I'd say.
Have you ever been to church with Dom's mum?
I have.
Can you tell us a little bit about like the first time you went with her, maybe?
Yeah, I just the first time was this time last year, because we spent Christmas with Dom's parents last year, and she took us to carols, and it was their local church, which they'd been to. They recently moved outside the M25, but they're originally from northwest. So we went to that church, and it was the church Dom grew up in as well. And it was just really lovely to be surrounded by that community. But I think having experience with religion, which isn't discriminatory, it doesn't have that connotation of you're not welcome here because you're a gay man, just a completely open and accepting and spiritual and pure time. That's why I really love Christmas as well, because obviously I go back to the Christian holiday and the origins of it, and it feels a very solemn and pure occasion where it brings everyone together. So I have that firm memory of like us singing carols, and we are singing to God. And sorry to say it like this, but yeah, that may sound silly to some people, I know, but to me it was a very wonderful experience, and that has stayed with me.
Afterthoughts is also an opportunity for us to talk about the lost conversations, those things that we are not doing so well at talking about in the cancer community. So, Brad, we were wondering, could you please tell us a story about something that you believe is a lost conversation?
Ooh, tricky one. First of all, I think there's a lot of people doing wonderful work around exposing conversations that are not being talked about. So I just want to say that first of all. But one thing I think that is lost from personal experience, I think, would be cancer and other minorities in a way, because I do view cancer in itself being a minority. Like it's a disability. Like you become a minority when you get diagnosed with cancer. And I think one of that is cancer and the LGBTQ plus community through my own experience. I came out when I was 17 in a rural environment, and I don't know why I said rural environment, because I didn't mean anything. I had a wonderful coming out. I was supported by my friends, by my family. I went through this renaissance of being completely expressive and being completely open and pushing the boundaries around who I was, like wearing nail varnish, wearing eyeshadow, and my parents were so accepting of that. Like, if you want to do this, if you want to explore who you are, go ahead and do it. Like, I was wearing jumpsuits with studs in front of my dad, having a drink, and like playing around with heels and stuff like that, and just was really trying, because I'd had so many years of suppression and not allowing myself to do that. So I came out at 17, and then at 19 was diagnosed with cancer. So I was then thrust into this world, and kind of me being who I was and me being that expressive person took a back seat, and it took a back seat for 6 years. I then had the bone marrow transplant, and then after it, cancer went bye-bye. So there was like this period of my young adult life, the majority of my young adult life, that had been taken up by cancer, and me, being who I was, being a proud gay man, had been suppressed. And now there was an opportunity for me to actually go, well, maybe we can pick up where we left off. I've always been very private about my relationships, but I felt that I've been very open about who I am. That's how I felt that I do. My relationship is my business and nobody else's. But at the beginning of the year, I really started to feel that LGBTQ plus and the community and issues facing that community weren't being talked about. And I was a member of the NHS Youth Forum, and I got invited to this event earlier in the year, and it was in Parliament, and it was hosted by some cancer charities with Health Education England and the NHS, and it was around how the NHS deals with people who have had cancer and who are LGBTQ. And I kind of thought, and I'd thought to myself, and I'm being invited here because I am an open gay man and I'm a member of the NHS Youth Forum, and I've been invited for purely tokenistic reasons. That's why I've been invited. Like, I think that's why I've been invited. So I did go in with a little bit of skepticism, but that event changed my life and it's impacted me still to this day. So long story short, we heard from 3 young people with cancer, all over the age of 18 and below 25, and had shared stories around their diagnosis and their treatment, and essentially their families rejecting them because they came out. One man in particular, I can't remember how old he was, but he was explaining how he was in hospital, and he had to be in hospital for about, I think it was about a month or so. And he was so exhausted from treatment that he decided to just come out. He'd been closeted for about a year or 18 months, he'd said, and thought, I can't be bothered with this. I can't be bothered with the keeping up appearances. I'm just going to come out, and people will accept me for who I am. He was so motivated by the community online and Instagram and social media. And it came out to his parents, and they were so disgusted they left him in hospital for the rest of his treatment, didn't come and see him. And the same theme echoed in the same theme ran through the other experiences as well, said in that room. And I think everybody had to pick their jaws up off the floor, myself in particular, because I was furious with the fact that a nurse, this guy had said to a nurse, like, oh, my parents have done this, and he was so upset. But the nurse was like, well, let's deal with one thing at a time, let's get you well, kind of like it's just a phase type answer. Infuriated me. It was like, oh my god. And that was what the whole thing was about, is the discrimination within the NHS. So that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, really. It was like, we're living in a post-Brexit climate where racism and homophobia is on the rise. There's been a rise in homophobic attacks even within London, and nobody's talking about the health outcomes of the LGBTQ plus community because of this subtle discrimination which doesn't get talked about. So I decided to be much more open. It started with just putting a rainbow in my Instagram, a rainbow flag in my Instagram and Twitter bios, being like, yes, I'm a person you can come to speak about LGBTQ plus issues. I joined the NHS Rainbow Badge scheme. I'm somebody you can approach to speak to about LGBT issues and health issues. And I'm using my platform now within the NHS and every other job that I do of talking about this issue of not just cancer but health outcomes in general for that community, and it's something that's very important to me.
Yeah, it's incredible like haunting story.
Very
of that
haunting
person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so Brad, what do you think for somebody who is in a hospital, who's going through, like, who might be experiencing similar things? Or
do you mean if people are facing discrimination?
Yeah. What is the route?
Well, I suppose it's finding the route for complaining, because that is absolutely not what somebody should experience with care of the NHS. The NHS treats people, and will say it treats people without discrimination, no matter who they are. So if you have that experience, that is completely and utterly wrong. You are not wrong, they are. And should be dealt with accordingly. So I think it's finding the routes, and they are available to us, and there's information out there for you to complain and to file an official complaint, and it will be dealt with. reaching out to a community online, I think, and finding people who you can speak to about these issues. And I think there's a lot of us. It's just trying to find us online, really. I think it's make sure that your voice is heard. I know it's so much easier said than done, but I think your experience and you telling somebody like those 3 brave young people who sat in a room in Parliament, which is an intimidating building as well if you've been in it for the first time, in front of people in suits, stakeholders, people who did want to help, but still there's that atmosphere of, oh God, I'm telling people and I'm complaining. So brave, they told their stories, and it's inspired not just me, but everybody else in that room to go, all right, well, we need to do something, because this has really affected these 3 people. How many other people have been affected by homophobia with the NHS and we don't know about it? So I think find a way to have your voice heard, and there are people who are willing to listen, and not just even listen, there are people willing to pass the microphone and have your voice heard at a local and a national level and even international level.
And our last story, I think this subject is actually my favourite, because we don't necessarily talk about the fact that cancer, whilst being difficult, can also be hilarious.
True.
And we'd really love to hear one of the funny stories that you have about cancer for our final section. Don't laugh.
Okay. Oh, well, it might... Will it make people laugh? It might not make people laugh, but it'll definitely make people go, ooh, okay. So, something that really stands out of being, it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but, well, I mean, maybe it was, is I had a UTI. So they gave me penicillin and antibiotics, and it started to go away, but I still had some like minor bleeding just because of some chemotherapy that I was on. It gets funnier. So, to be able to flush out my bladder, I had to have a catheter fitted. Which...
Can you explain what a catheter is?
So, a catheter... oh, God. A catheter is something that you need to... how do I explain this? So, a catheter is a tube that gets fitted into your bladder through your genitals, and it allows you to pass urine without you having to wee. So... yeah, it's normally used on more senior patients in hospital when they're having treatment, or for people who are like under anaesthetic, general anaesthetic. But I needed it because I needed to have a constant flush of my bladder. So I was on 24-hour, 48-hour fluids. So I had a catheter fitted. Anyway, so a student fitted it, but couldn't fit it. So I was having this, and you think it will be like maybe like a hair, like the size of a hair tube. No, it's not. It's more like a straw, and a thick paper straw as well.
It's going right.
Going right.
Yeah.
It's going up my penis. Let's just say it. Right. It's going up the tube of my penis. And it has a ball. It has like a marble-sized ball, because that's what goes into your bladder to hold it in place. So not only is the tube going in, but then the ball goes in. Yeah, it's all coming back to me now. Very Celine Dion. Sorry, I just need a breath because, Jesus, I'm thinking about it now and the pain. So a student tried to fit it 3 times but couldn't do it. So I was like, oh my God, does this mean I don't have to have the catheter fitted? The consultant came in and said, no, I'm afraid you do. I'm going to do it, but I'll be back in an hour. So I was like, oh God, stewing for an hour going, oh my God, I'm going to have this tube up my penis. Like, what does this mean? What's going to happen to me? They came in, and lo and behold, they did it the first time, which was good. Once it was fitted, it's fine. When it tugs, because obviously I had to sleep in it as well and move around the shower with a catheter and a Hickman line. Yeah, it was difficult. So that's not the end of the story, unfortunately. One night I woke up probably around 4 a.m. just before my obs, and was like, getting pain in my lower abdomen. Like, what is that? Oh, and then it just went away. I was like, I'm going to try and go back to sleep. About 15 minutes later, get it again. I'm going to call the nurse. Like, what is this? It's really hurting. And it just got progressively worse, got more frequent and progressively worse. Turns out I had a blockage in the catheter. So the fluid goes in one tube and then comes out another into the catheter bag to flush out the bladder. But there was a blockage in the fluid leaving the bladder. So the fluid bag was just getting filled with urine. So there was a huge blockage. So my bladder was as big as it could be, and it was going out the other way than what it should have been. So the IV thing was pushing it in, but it was actually getting pushed out. So this blockage essentially was filling me up, and my body was going, what the hell is going on with you? Like, we need to get this out. Like, so it was pushing this blockage. Obviously, it thought the blockage was in my penis, but it wasn't. It was in the tube, the urine tube. So I was having the most horrendous contractions. I was having muscle contractions, and I've had multiple bone marrow biopsies before, and I've had a bone marrow transplant, and that was this contraction and feeling it, like it was making, I wasn't crying, but I felt like the tears were being forced out of me. Like it really, really hurt. And I look back on it because I'm just like, yeah, that happened. like amongst everything else, like, yes, I got a blockage in my catheter and I experienced a brief thing of childbirth. Like, it wasn't even that. So yeah, I didn't even have anything coming out. So
what did they do to relieve the blockage? Did they make you like hold your nose and blow us?
Well, no, they were they flushed it. Like, so they unhooked it and they flushed it. Like, so I felt it like shooting up. It was like, whoa, like that. What was that? And they were like, we just have to flush it. We have to get rid of the blockage. And then when the blockage came, oh yeah.
How long did you weep?
It was like Niagara Falls. Like, it's just. So what is going on? Because obviously I'm not pushing because it's just coming out.
Oh my God.
It's like, just all this fluid coming out. And once they fitted the catheter back up, I was like, do you know what? I'm never going to complain about having a catheter again because it was fine. Like, I felt wonderful. Yeah.
Do you know you're weeing when you have a catheter in?
No,
I've never had a catheter.
because it just happens. It just happens. So it really messes you up when you don't have a catheter. So like so I had a catheter for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So when I didn't have one, I was like, do I need to go? Like, I'd go like nearly every hour, like just little bits and bobs, like for the react. What's it thing for the valve to build up again? Yeah.
There's a really nice feeling when you're desperate for a wee and you finally get one.
Yeah. It took a long time for me to build up to that though. Like, I would be in the car and I'd be like, I'm desperate for a wee, like that. There wouldn't be no build up. I'd be like, I'm desperate for a wee.
And then you just go into panic station.
Yeah, because
the enjoyment.
I didn't
That's
have
the worst part.
Well, but the panic, like, you normally build, like, your panic's like, oh no, I can do it. But with me, it'd be like, I'm desperate for a wee. 5 minutes later, well, I'm weeing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I'm weeing myself because I've got no control. So I had to really build up that control again. Yeah.
Have you had any moments where you've had to use a bottle or anything like that?
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
Well before cancer, actually. So many.
And on that note, let's say thank you so much.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Your stories are just
it's like low-key therapy,
brilliant.
Actually. I feel so much lighter after sharing
Oh,
this,
good. That's good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear
Take
it.
that testimonial. Write that one down, punters.
It's like therapy.
Yeah. Alice, I'm going to start with you. What are your afterthoughts on Afterthoughts?
My afterthoughts on Afterthoughts, I really resonated with what Brad was saying about religion, actually, and finding spirituality. So it's something that I am interested in, but maybe it's something I'm going to try and pursue a bit more of in 2020. What about you, Toby?
For me, I've been thinking about shower gel, if I'm honest. I've been thinking about shower gel, and when I've smelt it recently, and that thought of going, actually, yeah, like embracing that smell, but also knowing that smell can always catch up on you.
Smell's a powerful thing.
Smell is a powerful
really
thing.
is.
Brad?
I think it's really great that you two are focusing on people other than just the cancer. I think it's very important for Afterthoughts to be a thing because it's in the clues in the name is processing and thinking about things long after they've happened, because it helps you deal with it and it helps you process this monumental thing which has happened. So yeah, I think it's a very special thing you're doing here.
Thanks.
Take that. I mean, he's read the script really well, hasn't he?
Yeah, totally. Nailed it.
So thank you so much, listeners, for listening to Afterthoughts.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
If today's episode of AfterThoughts has sparked any thoughts or feelings that you'd like to speak to somebody about, we would really, really recommend you grabbing a cup of tea with a friend or dropping them a WhatsApp. Or you could speak to our fantastic charity supporters, Trekstock. Trekstock gets young adults in their 20s and 30s moving again, physically, socially and psychologically, after cancer has stopped them in their tracks. You can hear more at www.trekstock.com. AfterThoughts is produced by Alice May Purkiss and Toby Peach from Beyond Arts. Thank you.